you think of games, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Video games? Board games? When it comes to video games, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Mario or Sonic? What about the newer at the time, 3D platformers? And then you go and question, what kind of engines were used back then? We didn't have Unreal or Unity around that time. So how could we make our own? This might have not been what everybody was looking for, but this was the program that a few turned to. A slight few, let's just go to say.
Now, with the 3D Gamemaker, you can create your own gaming experience in no time at all. And you don't have to be a programming genius to do it. In fact, if you can use a mouse, then you're just one step away from building your very own 3D shoot-'em-up. With hundreds of objects, weapons, environments, good guys, bad guys, vehicles and sounds, the only limiting factor here is your imagination.
This thing is quite a forgotten gem. So forgotten that Vectrex for Life hasn't even done a Forgotten Games video on this thing. Not only that, but this thing seems to be wiped away from the internet completely. This thing, just by looking at the way videos on this go on YouTube, the dislikes are harsh. Whoa, talk about something that failed. But what made this thing fail?
Let's show you just how easy it is to create your very own 3D gaming experience in seconds. First, you need to select your scene. There are literally hundreds to choose from. After choosing a player object and the type of bullet you want to shoot, within a few clicks of a mouse, you can test the game. Easy.
To start off, you have two choices. You can either do beginner or standard mode. I always do standard because beginner, you're extremely limited when it comes to that. And already you're thrown into choosing a world. There's literally a lot to choose from. Heck, there's even an option to build a world, although I'll get into that topic later. And then it's off to select a character. Now this one is one of my personal favorites, mostly because it reminds me of another limbless hero that you can play as. Oh, that modeling error can actually be seen here. I was wondering where that came from because I found the 3DS model in the game files and I was wondering where this came from. And this here is actually attached to the left hand and now I know. Luckily this piece of loose mesh can actually be deleted. Good side is, nothing will go wrong with it. So wait, does that mean that the green one will have the same thing? It does. Mostly because the red and the green are the same model, but just different textures. I wonder how they didn't see this when they released it. Also, you might have seen that there was a bit of a glitch when none of the text would show. That was pulled off by minimizing the program and pulling up the program right away, and I did that just so I could get Fraps to actually show and record the screen. So while on the topic of character models, a lot can actually be seen as duplicates, but just retextured. That could be one reason to why a lot of the people didn't really necessarily care for this thing. Because, well, let's face the facts, you have duplicates. You don't really want to play as something that is just a different color. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did this thing when I took every single enemy and every single boss and made it into a playable character and enemy and boss. So that's an exception. But repeated models, say for an example these Jaws things, like okay, I, by default, was able to play as the blue one. Without adding in the other models, I could have just taken the textures of the other two and played as them through there. So, what's with the duplicates? Although trying to show that I could have just replaced the textures ended up leading into a game crash. That seems to happen a lot, especially if A, you have a newer PC like I do, or B, what would B actually be? But this thing tends to crash a lot. But once you have everything put together, it makes something pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie, it actually does the trick. Now, this is only a problem my laptop has, but ignore the fact that my textures are kind of messed up. I do not know how to fix this problem, and it will be seen throughout the entire video. So, stick with me when it comes to this, and this isn't the only thing I have that has that treatment too, so I know it's not the game itself. It does have to do something with my laptop, so if somebody knows how to fix that, but please let me know in the comments below. So personally, I believe my favorite things to do on this is to work on FPS shooters. Mostly because you get a free range of the area around you. Use the mouse to shoot, use the mouse to jump. The only thing you gotta do is to use the arrow keys to move, and I honestly like it when you can look around the place and to choose any weapon of your choice, and oh, is that a banana hand? Ooh, I already have an idea for this one. That's right, even a banana could be a pistol if you really wanted to. But that's not the only funny thing that you could put together. Say for an example, you're more into third-person games to when the camera is behind the player. Well, if you have dark humor somewhat like me, you will be a murderous robot killing Granny over her own teeth. Now for those characters that I copied over into the player area, some of those characters, if not all of those characters, were not programmed to have all of the player sounds available, so they will be blank. But that just gives more of an excuse to add more sounds back in, rather it be the ones that the game came with or ones that you have sitting in your computer. Although, yet again, when it comes to that, even that limits your sounds because you don't have access to all of your sounds. And if the names are long, then just take a peek at this glitch. Now, I really gotta say my least favorite things to do is to work on anything vehicle-based. Mostly flying, because if you think about it, when it comes to a lot of these levels, really, it's like flying is too overpowering. And sometimes you can even discover that some things in these other worlds don't even have ground collision, or any collision at all. Although, don't get me wrong, it does give you a good experience of what the environment is around you. Kind of like a Boundary Break episode. hey, where do sheep go to get their haircut? At the barber shop. These teeth were made in China. Oh, no wonder why these were an enemy at one point. Sorry, I had to. I have nothing against Chinese people. And for the driving-based ones, actually, I don't know what to say for this one. The cars are okay. Yes, I would like to add mine that I modeled in. I might do a topic on that part a little bit later on in this video. I don't know, I just never was a fan of it. I'm alright with the auto jump, although, yet again, the auto jump gets a little... I don't know what to do about that. The auto jump is annoying after a while. Like, say you're going around a tight turn on one of the space tracks, and all of a sudden, boop, oh, there you go, just clip right through the ground. And that's it. I don't like that, but hey, for whatever, it helps. It helps in some cases, especially in these types of worlds when getting over cliffs is a need. But, hey, it's whatever. And running over enemies is too easy, too. I mean, yeah, you can still shoot them and all, but is there really a need to actually shoot enemies if all you're gonna do is just run people over? Exterminate! Now, there's really no type of level that I would hate in this type of thing. But if you want to go back in time to, like, what I would say, like, 8-year-old me, then this would make sense as to put this thing together. This Gamemaker has an entire horror section, and when you think of horror, you think of, like, okay, shack, streets, sewers, clowns. Nope, not in this case. Instead, you're inside alien intestines or human intestines, and they really took it to a limit here by actually making veins and stuff. This is why, when I was 8 years old, I wanted to stay away from this type of thing. Especially when I first heard about this. That's when I kind of had it was kind of a bad start, so to say, but not anybody's attention or anything. It's just, imagine being 8 years old and you're seeing somebody's guts despite that they're fake. At the same time, though, it kinda does make things more humorous for the darker side, I guess. I mean, you're not going to be Indiana Jones and be like, alright, here's a cave, and next thing you know, you're going to be destroying pianos while killing off infection. What would this be? I can't say Indiana Jones 5 because they're already starting production on that, but would this be like the 6th movie when he decides to shrink down and say, hey, I found a lost piano. The piano of constipation. And speaking of constipation, you can make something like that. You could be inside intestines, and here it's like, oh, hi, there's a poop monster in here. Either a poop monster, or you could fight off stones, which, having both poop inside your guts and having stones inside your guts is pretty unhealthy as it is. So, holy crap, this guy's gonna die. Oops. I think I just accidentally killed off an innocent man. Or you know what, that could probably be why Granny's in the scooter.
It doesn't have to stop there. You have access to the properties to each object within a game, so you really can set the scene that's right for you.
So I already knew I was going to cover this topic. One of my favorite parts when I was younger, when it came to this, was making my own level. fun part is I discovered if you right click, not only do you erase things, but it also gives you a chance to have a bigger room than what you're trapped in. Now the major downside was this: I got done with this room, and normally you're able to put down a start zone, an end zone, and where the boss is gonna be. I was unable to do that. Like, I was to click on the start zone, and the start zone wouldn't even show up on my mouse like it normally would. Same goes with the boss, so I was unable to show a 3D view. So I figured, why not go and restart the program, see what happens? And little to my knowledge, the entire thing crashed on me. Not only was I unable to do Control-Alt-Delete just to start the task manager, I was unable to click on anything. So, last and only option that I was able to do was to force shut down my laptop, and I hate doing that. Mostly because of previous laptops I had when they ended up crashing for good on me. And not only that, but with this laptop, I literally have to wait, and I timed it 4 minutes just for the thing to actually fully boot up. Well, looks like the level editor's out of the picture. Man, if I would have been smart enough, I probably would have saved the other levels that I made back when I was younger, but, I lost all the hard drives of that, so, not even going to bother thinking about that. But here's a story of its own. The people who made this announced that you can make custom characters, but they showed a window to when there's a special editor in the program to when you can choose a head, a body, a set of legs. You can choose all of that. But that's not in the final thing. And trying to search for it later on, it's completely erased from the internet. So I guess the developers knew that they kind of messed up on something, so they wanted to try to hide it all. However, custom characters are still allowed in the game. But so far, I don't think anybody has figured it out yet. I'm unsure. I don't know. If somebody has, let me know. But I am coming near close, centimeters close to solving this thing. And, well, this is the best that I could have gotten. I didn't really want to do anything special yet, just for testing purposes. So what I did was took the old tomato model that this thing came with, got rid of the model error, that's for sure, and just reanimated the walking, so it's, however, the only thing that this thing came with was a 3DS model of the tomato, and 3DS models of some of the user cars, if not all of the user cars. Everything else is DAT files, and Blender doesn't really have anything for that, as far as I know. There might be a plugin for it, I'm unsure. But if there is a plugin, I will be on the case of that. So hopefully I can get my custom car models in there. That way I can have my official first custom thing in the game. But for now, this is the best that custom characters can do. It's nothing, but you can still tell that it's wanting to do what the thing was programmed to do. It's just that the model is invisible and you cannot see the animation. whoa, I'm not done with this topic yet. You gotta hold. Alright, update with the custom characters, or custom players. But we're actually getting somewhere. Despite that the model is ginormous, all I really gotta do is trial and error when it comes to resizing. It's working! I just gotta figure out how to make this thing actually drive instead of walk. Because, this is a car that I'm working on, and I honestly didn't know if I just got rid of the model DAT file, I could have just exported this as a 3DS and a DirectX model. The only problem is I'm not finding out how to work on the textures for this thing just yet. That might come a little later. Hopefully there will be a way to actually get the textures to work. So when I find out how to do that, I might just include this as a download in the future. If anybody still plays this thing. So this is more of a shout out to Darby from Blue Television Games, because this thing is actually his band's logo as a car, which was something I decided to put together blindly. So seeing that it's actually trying to work in a game is actually quite impressive, so shout out to him. So in the end, why do people have something against this thing? Well, according to my calculations and to what I've dug up throughout this entire video, this Gamemaker thing is completely buggy. It has the bad habit of crashing. There's repetitiveness within this thing. Levels are too short. This thing, I feel like, was released a little bit too soon, before anything could be tested. It's like, we don't know what's going on with this crashing, so let's just go and release it out to the public. And, to think that this is the same group of people who worked on the FPS creator, but at the same time, look what happens with the FPS creator. Even before you could start to test your own world, that crashes. They changed their name because that's how bad the FPS creator flopped. And this here tended to flop as well. So whatever happened to this company? Like, did they get shut down or something? Somebody do the research on that, because I don't have Wi-Fi. I can't. And this is probably going to be uploaded late until I actually do get Wi-Fi. But yeah, this seems to be the case. Like, this Gamemaker's just been released a little bit too early for the public. There's no debug patches. The game tends to crash, and for some reason, even the disc has an earlier build, which crashes before you can even open it. So, I don't see the point of having that. Don't get me wrong, the levels are alright, despite them being short. The character designs are pretty good, some of them at least. The banana gun is more comical relief. And one of my personal favorites, Scrapman. No, push him aside, not that Scrapman. This Scrapman. I never thought of a robot that could just be made of scrap for my robots. This was something I always wanted to play as, and to think of that I could have just copied the files and start playing as him, I was actually expecting to drive with him, but then I remembered he's got more animations to him, so he's a walking character. But the character designs are pretty fun to look at, are pretty good. I most had fun with the tomato, as seen twice in this thing. But other than that, I really wish this game would have went smooth sailing from years onward. I personally like it. I don't want to say love, because there's more games that can do better than this. So in today's standards, what would I give this rating? Well, maybe back then I would have given it a 5-star rating, like when I was like around 8 years old. Okay, scratch that. 4 out of 5 because of the gut levels that are in here. When I was like 4 or 5, that was like the thing I was afraid of. But if you want to go with today's standards, I want to say maybe like a 1-star, 2-star. The graphics are good for what they were back then. I still find them pretty good, to be honest with you. Mostly because I rather prefer the older games than the newer ones anyway. But if you're just looking for something to get your mind off of things, or if you're just too bored, then maybe this will be the thing for you. Probably not. Most likely not, because a lot of people still don't really care for this thing and don't really like this thing. But that's just me. That's my own opinion. I find this thing fun when I'm bored. And heck, I'm even getting close to having personal models in my things, so that's a good thing for me. But for now, this is something I would normally never do. So I guess all you can say for me right now is sunchip out.
The 3D Game Maker. Just click to create.